There we go. And we have special guests today, guys. I don't know if you saw our invitations are being sent right now. Oh, whoa. That's too much. That's too much. Russ, you're here. What's up?
Am I heard?
Oh, hold on.
Okay. Your sound is good.
Syd's microphone is
calling.
It's creating too many feedbacks for me. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. It is a pleasure for us to have you on today. John Iceman Scully will be joining us shortly as well. If you're watching, I sent your invitation, but he's also traveling and on his way to visit with us as well. It's really weird that there's two of me.
Right?
It's creeping me out of bed. How was your Christmas, Russ?
It was good. You know, it was quiet. It was nice. A little relaxing. Just trying to get the batteries charged up for what's going to be a very, very hectic first part of the new year. I'm leaving for the UK, God willing, on January 9th. Two big fights over there with Liam Smith on the 21st, and then Arthur Beterbiev, which Scully will be with me on the 29th. So I got two back-to-back fights, so I'll be gone for like 3 weeks there. So yeah, it's gonna be a busy New Year. What's happening?
Hey, Ross.
Sid, you got disinvited somehow. I don't know what happened.
Me?
No,
okay.
you left us.
Okay, no problem.
He didn't want to hang out with us anymore.
I'll come back.
So it's now just the Russ and Sonya party.
Yeah. Where are you at?
Well, I have the fight that's in Pickering at the Pickering Casino with United Promotions on January. I keep saying the wrong date. I think it's the 14th. Is that the Saturday?
I think it's the 14th.
Yeah, the 14th. So I'll be in Pickering at the Pickering Casino for United Promotions Fight Night that night. And then the rest of my January is just going to be, working hard with Syd over here. And
How's the gym going with you guys? Everything okay? Every day in the gym?
You know what? We've just picked things up and just really taken it to a different level. So yeah, we're busy, we're growing, and just again on the competitive stock side, we're getting ready for the Brampton Cup. I've got a few athletes in the nationals. So yeah, just looking forward to 2023. It's gonna be a good year.
How is boxing right now in the amateur scene in Ontario, Syd? I think last time we did a thing was we had the whole group on for all those amateur guys during the pandemic.
Yeah, we did. It was amazing. So many great sound. I mean, anytime we have Russ on, there's always great sound bites. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about too, is like the history of boxing. Like a lot of people don't study, they weren't around. So if you weren't around, then they just don't know. But they don't know the history of boxing, even if it's like boxing in Canada or the Olympics. And you have been to, how many Olympics have you been to?
6.
6 Olympic Games, right?
Well, actually, physically 5. The last one was done from studio, but called it. But yeah, physically 5. So yeah, that's crazy. That's a record to beat.
Tell me give me a memory from one of the Olympics, and it may be in the ring, it may not, but give me one great memory you have of one of the Olympic Games.
I don't think anything will ever top 88. I mean,
that was Seoul, right?
Yeah, Seoul, Korea. There were just so many things happened at that Olympics, whether it's related to boxing or not, because there was the Ben Johnson incident and how Ben was like a king when we got over there. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without. If you told people you're from Canada, the first words out of their mouth was Ben Johnson.
Johnson.
And then of course everything that happened in the ring. Lennox's gold medal win, Jamie Pagandam winning and then losing and then not being allowed to fight, and scoring the knockout win and then getting stopped himself, but they should have stopped the other guy. That was just a travesty. Being a part of it and having Howard there from my own gym, having Howard Grant as part of the team, being a part of arguably the best Olympic team Canada's ever produced, and we leave those Olympics as the number 10th ranked country in the world. You know, which isn't bad, right? And like we can't even see 10 now. You know, from as far back as we are, like 10 is not even. You know, it's so I don't think anything will ever beat Seoul. Seoul was special, the first one. It's always special with the first one, but yeah, Seoul was the best.
Nice. And other sports. So other than boxing at Seoul, was there any other sports that you were able to take in?
The only thing we got to see, no, because we were, and I'll tell you something else. Getting there was not easy, but no, we were at the Shamshil Arena was the name of the arena where we're at, and I've got the poster. Actually, it's that poster right there. That's
right there. There we go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the only thing we all took in was the 100 meters. No matter where you were, like everything stopped and you watched, whether it was on TV monitor, you watched it. And I was actually in my room. Boarding room that we had, a friend of mine had, and we stayed there and we watched the race. And of course, for 24 hours, it was just the greatest victory ever, right? Canada was on the world stage, like front and center in the greatest gold medal win of all time for 24 hours. And then, you know, history would prove what a scapegoat, you know, Ben was and what they did to him and how badly they treated him. And, when you think that everybody else on the line, and this was the beginnings, if you will, of doping controversies and stuff, right? And then, you know, when you look back on that whole line, everybody on that line was on the juice, and they handed out the medals to them and just took it away from Ben, and he was never done right in that whole deal. That was, well, all of them, I guess. If one was wrong, they were all wrong.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, one of the things that I definitely want to pick your brain about, because we're going to have a lot of young fighters watching this. And, I mean, this is your experience, so this is not like the only be-all, end-all. You're just talking from your experience. But you've been around boxing for so long. You've worked with so many world champions and arguably some of the GOATs of all time. Amateur pedigree. How important is amateur pedigree? Or is it like, can you just develop in the pros? Or do you need that amateur pedigree to, if someone wants to be a world champion, professional boxing, how important is amateur pedigree?
Look, I think the general consensus is, and if you look at the greats in boxing today or at any time, the general consensus is, yes, you have to have an amateur pedigree. You start proving your worth, you know, from day one. I don't think it's any different than in any other sport. You know, like Gretzky didn't start being great at hockey when he signed with the Oilers, right? You know, like as a 9-year-old, he was blasting away all the other 9-year-olds. You know, and I think that's different, Syd, in boxing. And name the great champions throughout history, especially when Olympics and amateur boxing really were something of importance. All the greats, you know, whether it's Ali, Fraser, Foreman, Leonard, Howard Davis, the Spinks brother, you can go through Golovkin, Lomachenko, Usyk. I mean, you're talking about a plethora of medals and amateur experience along the way that got these guys to the pro ranks and made them. Are there exceptions to the rules? Of course there are. Of course there's the Bernard Hopkins of the world who go on to become great champions without the amateur pedigree. But nothing is 100%. But certainly when you look at it and, you know, you start, you know, having success in the amateur ranks and you're winning and you look like you're a dominant guy, it makes a big difference when it comes time to get into the pro ranks.
For sure.
I mean, look at yourself. I mean, you're a prime example, right? So I don't think you have to look any further than your own gym to see how true that is. And of course, I could say the same about with any of the guys that I developed along the way, whether it was, you know, Howard and Otis Grant or David Lemieux, or, you know, these guys came from deep amateur backgrounds, you know, before they turned pro.
You got to put the reps in. You got to build that foundation.
Yeah, I mean, now if you ask me about now what's happening in the world of boxing, especially with the advent of women's boxing, how popular it seems to be becoming and how many more women are turning pro with zero amateur background. I think what we're seeing a lot of now in amateur boxing has become fitness boxing now. I mean, there's probably more gyms opened up in Quebec and Ontario than ever before in our history of being in boxing. And there's less fighters because they're all doing fitness boxing, right? Because that's how they're paying their bills. They're opening up gyms which are in, strip malls and expensive areas where their rent is high. So they can't be, teaching boxing for free for $25 a month to kids and expect to pay the bills, right? So amateur boxing has become fitness boxing, and it's like pro boxing has become the new amateur boxing, where people now are just turning pro, whether it's the YouTubers or whoever you want, or they're just turning pro. Anybody can get a pro license. They get a logo made, they get a logo made of themselves, and, they're pros, right? Everybody's a pro now. Everyone can turn pro. Whereas back in the day, it meant something to turn pro, like when you turned pro, you were you either were among the cream of the crop of your field, or you had done your run in amateur boxing, and now you're just looking to maybe cash in a few paychecks, and maybe give it a run in the pros. You might not have been the best, but you turned pro after it. But now, right, anybody turns pro. Everybody, I'm a pro. And if you look on their Instagram, professional boxer, 1-0,
undefeated.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do that. After my one fight rest, after my one fight, I'm gonna put that professional boxing.
Undefeated.
Everybody's a pro now.
It's really good. It's like you took on so and so undefeated.
Yeah. That's right. You're undefeated. You're 1-0. That's
That's right.
So it's the landscape of boxing, Sid, and you can't keep pretending that you're young anymore. You've been around long enough to understand it as well. You dress up all young, and you're all fit, and you're not fat like me, but
get out of here.
You've been around long enough to see that the landscape of boxing, whether it be professional or amateur, has changed dramatically from when we first started in the game. And I think back of what gym when 1978, 79, I'm looking for a gym to train in. Every place was not necessarily in the poorest part of town, but in the place where buildings or places where you could have boxing were in the in the lowest rent districts because people couldn't afford it. Everybody had a job, so a guy would open up a gym or maybe even get a place for free in a rundown place, and he'd build a gym and train fighters. And he actually trained fighters, and now that's not the case anymore. Now all the gyms are pristine and beautiful. It's completely different from what it used to be. So the landscape certainly has changed. Here's another one who still thinks he's young, but he's old as well.
He still spars 50 rounds a day or something. This guy here.
Okay. Little bit off. A little bit off.
That's right.
What I want to know is how this friendship started all the way back in 88. It was 88, correct?
Well,
was it 88? That's so.
let me just tell you real quick. It started when I got a call to come to Montreal to fight Otis Grant.
Magic.
Yeah. Now, and Russ and I met after the fight, and we kept in touch. But the funny thing is, I'm actually with Otis Grant right now. I'm at his gym, and Otis is standing 50 feet away from me right now. And,
my gosh!
So we fought each other, met each other, whatever. Then when I turned pro, we both turned pro within a few months, and my manager had Otis and Howie on a couple shows in Hartford that I was on, undercard. And Otis actually came and as a middleweight knocked out a Golden Gloves champion named Stokely Critchlow, who weighed 195, and Otis was 160. And they let the fight go, and Otis knocked him out.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then when Otis started getting bigger fights, I started going to Montreal to spar with him for those fights. So I was up here all the time, back and forth. And then when he fought for the world title in '97, I went to England with them and sparred with him. I was really his only sparring partner for the fight. And then when I started training fighters, I would have Russ in the corner with me with Chad Dawson, Scott Pemberton, different guys like that. And, you know, we've just been connected ever since.
And I was in John's corner for his last professional fight.
Right. And you must have been there, Sid. It was at the Hershey Center in 2001.
There. I was there.
Right. And you know what? One of the best fights of my career. And I remember thinking I should have had Russ train me the whole time. You know, really. I thought that. Yeah. Because the corner was so smooth. And I was like, I literally had to wait until the last fight of my career to have a really well-oiled machine of a corner.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful thing. Yeah, it was good.
It was a complete performance because I remember watching you, and I was just like, hey, this guy is smooth. Like, you were, I was like, who is this guy? This guy is smooth. And of course,
I felt really
right.
good that fight. Really good. Yeah, that was a great memory.
Now, so he said, now, if you would take my children, like I keep asking, think of the stories and adventures that the three of us could be having in the UK. Guys, if you can convince Sid to watch my children for 2 weeks, I'm in on the trip to the UK, okay? Party on, let's go do it, let's make some boxing memories.
Now, John, when I was in Brockton training originally, my first nickname was actually Just Ice. I was Sid Just Ice. Because, like, it was a play on Justice, Sid Justice. It was Just Ice. And so
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
It was Just Ice. Yeah.
Nice.
But you were the real Ice Man, so. Nice.
Yeah.
Now, Russ, you mentioned something. You mentioned the name Alexander Usyk. Now, I got to go there. Tyson Fury versus Usyk. You are an educated, well-studied man of boxing. And Usyk, oh my gosh, like there's no, like, how can you go against a guy that has done all that he's done in the sport, but he hasn't done against a giant like Fury? And Fury, listen, Fury looked good his last fight. I know the competition level is not that great, but man, he looked like all the little tricks. I mean, you can see all the little tricks he was doing. He looked sharp. And I'm not going to ask you, does Usyk beat, Fury? Because I know in your mind he does. Why? Why does he beat, why does he beat Fury?
Look, why does he beat him? You can give as many reasons for why he beats him as why Fury beats him as well.
Okay.
So I think both are, you're right. I'm loyal to Alexander Usyk, 100%. I'll go to the wall with him, right? Yep. No problem. But I'm also not blind, right? I saw what Fury can do and the abilities he has. And when you look at Fury, the thing that I've learned over my 43 years in this game, when you look at Fury, you're supposed to be a lumbering, big heavyweight looking to club me. That's the kind of guy you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be this nimble, very flexible, agile, boxer. You're not supposed to be that. Your body type is not that. And that's where you prove that sometimes in boxing, all the weightlifting and muscle building doesn't matter if you can't fight. And at the end of the day, Fury, doesn't matter that he's 300 pounds or whatever, he can fight. And he can really fight. So it's certainly not going to be something easy for Usyk. You're dealing with a lot of size, but sometimes certain fighters in history, and I hope it'll be the case with Usyk, makes the size disadvantage an advantage. And it's easy sometimes to beat the slower, bigger guys. Like Fury with his style, to beat these dangerous big guys, like whether it be somebody like a Chisora or Wilder.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with an agile, quick guy, and you could ask a bunch of fighters who have moved up in weight and then came back down and fought smaller guys, man, it's a totally different ball game. So, and I think Ray Lesh can attest to that as well. So, we're just going to hope that everything that Usyk does and does well is going to be enough to beat Fury. He's going to have to exploit his southpaw stance. He's going to have to exploit his combinations. He's definitely going to have to exploit the pace in which he sets for the fight. Make that big. The same way that Fury said for going into the second fight with Wilder, he wasn't just going to box. He was going to use his size. Well, Usyk's going to have to use his size in being able to be into fifth gear before Fury's coming out of second gear, you know? And he's going to have to be making Fury work at a pace that Fury might not want to work at. So those are just some of the things we're going to try to do. But by no stretch of the imagination do I think it's going to be easy. But I believe in my guy, and, you know, many big guys have fallen to smaller guys. So that's what we're going with.
Absolutely. And I think, like, Usyk can win this fight. Like, I would not say there's no way he's going to win. Like, he can win the fight. He's proven that.
He can also lose it, you know.
He can also lose it. Absolutely.
It's a dangerous fight, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to learn something dangerous.
You want to learn something dangerous?
I want to learn something dangerous, guys.
Okay. Where's my focus pens?
You want mine? Mine are in there.
All right.
I want them to teach me something that makes me dangerous.
You want what?
I want you guys to teach me something that's going to make me dangerous. Right? It's fair. That's fair. It's fair.
You got a Louis
Probably not good at it, but I can practice it.
Have you got a Louisville Slugger anywhere nearby?
Yeah. I was going to say.
One at home, actually, and I have no idea where it came from.
Yes, I was going to say, get a taser. They're probably like $100.
Yeah.
You know, so I nearly bought one. Funny story, John. I was in Vegas years, like probably 12 years ago now, and they had, and I was, you know, a lot younger, no kids, in Vegas, and they had these tiny little pink tasers that you could buy for $20, and I was so close to getting one just for the fun of having it.
I would like to try it out on somebody.
So let me know then when you're in town. My mom, some has invited me before when the police are doing their training to put on the suit and let them taser you in the safety suit so like you can feel it, but you're not going to get really hurt. So let me know. We'll go get tasered together. I'm down.
All right. So before you teach Sonya something dangerous, as I put on my rival focus pads, there was a question that I wanted to ask Russ, because this blows my mind. If people don't know about rival boxing and how it's taken over the boxing industry.
I wouldn't go that far, but thank you.
Let me tell you, for quality equipment, let me tell you, like, boxers know quality, right? And so Russ, I remember going on a TV show, and it was Russ's show. I think it might have been In the Corner with Russ Anber. I can't remember.
In the Corner.
Yeah. And after we finished the segment, Russ would go over and he'd have this little bag and he'd pull out some focus pads or whatever. He's like, hey, you know, I've got some stuff I kind of made, and, you know, like, do you want to, like, buy it or whatever? And what was it, Coach's Line, or was
Coach's Choice? Coach's Choice.
Coach's Choice. And this is where Russ started. like, Russ didn't start. So I want to know, Russ, because it blows my mind. Like, we order stuff all the time. It gets delivered on time. There's no, how did you take a business? Like, do you have a business degree? Like, you're kidding me. Like,
if I had all that, my company would probably be even more successful. You know, I'm probably underachieving. I have no idea what I'm doing, Syd. I really, when it comes to the business, I don't. I really have no clue. But I do have a clue about making equipment. Like, that I do understand. And I've been doing this since 1985. Like, I don't know if you remember correctly, but I'm the one who brought Ringside into Canada. So really,
I do. Yes.
My first brand was Ringside, and it was John Davenport who gave me the catalog when I was looking for equipment, and it was a three-page flyer. You know, he says, Russ, these guys are starting out. They have good equipment, you know, because I wanted equipment for my gym. And after I got it, I asked them if I could be their distributor, and for 13 years, I was the exclusive Ringside distributor in Canada. So I introduced that brand. So it was like basically developing my own brand and brought it into Canada. You know, it already existed, but I'm saying that pretty much was the same thing. And so I did that. And then after John Brown, who was the owner of Ringside at the time, after he got rid of 2 employees who worked for him since they were kids, and then got rid of me, those 2 guys started title boxing. And when they did, they naturally turned to me and said, "Russ, would you like to help us with title?" And I said, "Of course," because I was out of a job. Like, I needed to do this. And I saw right away that people were buying equipment because it was coming from me, not because of the brand, you know? So they trusted me and that I knew boxing. Hey, Russ can get gloves. Russ can get us headgears. Okay, no problem. And I would get it. And when we did that, after I did that and I started toying with the idea of creating my own brand, I placed my first order for $2,000, and maybe a year later, Title became the first distributor of rival gear in America. So I was their distributor and they became my distributor then, and we still have a partnership to this day, and we're still in touch with them all the time, and they do their stuff, we do our stuff, but we sell some of their stuff, they sell some of ours, things that we don't get. We communicate about vendors and people who manufacture for us, and we often manufacture in the same place. So yeah, that's been the story of doing that, doing the equipment.
You know what, for anyone who is starting a business or wants to be successful in anything, there was a lot that was just said there that if you pay attention to, you're going to learn a lot about how he grew his business. All right, loyalty, knowing his product, learning the ropes. There's so much there. So go back, listen to that. That was good.
That was good.
You know what? I've worked 16 hours a day for the last 25 years to become an overnight success.
So
hey,
true.
And let me tell you guys something. I see we have Rydell Booker, very good fighter from Detroit, and Ron the Dragon Essett, fought for the world title 3 times, as viewers right now. So we have some very good boxing viewers right now checking us out.
And Booker was Team Cannon, I believe. I think they were Team Cannon. Yeah, I remember now.
Guys, thank you for watching, and please message us, join us on an episode. I need all the help I can get.
All right.
So
what are they going to teach us?
I don't know. What are you guys going to teach me?
Well, I mean, how can I say what we're going to teach you? I've never seen you do anything, so I don't even know what you can do to begin with. So.
Oh!
True.
Okay.
Last time I worked with her on the laser beam jab.
She's not a southpaw.
She did very. Last time I was on Syd's show, I worked with her on the laser beam jab, power jab.
Oh, you want to see that
like
again?
A winky right jab. She did very well with it.
Warm it up.
Okay, let me say something.
All right.
Okay, I would say for one jab, she doesn't need to step in with her right foot. Like, she could push off her back foot, like Larry Holmes, and get that snap. Because you want to, with one jab, you want to keep that distance. And also, I would dip to my, she's southpaw, right? Am I looking at it right? She's
no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weird.
So, okay, well, either way, you should, instead of standing straight up, you should dip towards your power hand a little bit, like sideways, just like away from towards the wall, right. And use your back foot to push into the jab a little harder.
She's not going to be able to do that if her front foot stays where it is. She's got to move her front foot first. She's got to have her stance wider, and her leg has to be.
Well, tell her, Russ. Tell her.
All right, let's go. I love it.
We need to get them both in the same, like, physically with us here.
Let's go.
Okay. A wider stance and dip.
There
you go.
Now, off of that jab, what do you do off of that jab? Like, is this like a, or is this like a blinding jab? Like, what are you going to do off of that jab?
I mean, you want to, well, like I said, I can't tell if she's southpaw or righty. I don't know if it's backwards, but, you want to drop that power hand in there right behind it, almost like it's one punch, like bang, bang. try to cut down the time in between the jab and the power hand.
Do you know, some of the best fighters in the world can't make 2 punches sound like one. And you want her to do this? Okay, let's go.
Yeah. James Toney could do it. Think of James Toney. Do it like James Toney.
All right.
Okay, hold on. Okay, wider stance. Drop. Okay.
When you throw that one, come in a little more. Yeah. That's it. Let it roll.
Okay.
Boom. One more. All right.
Looking pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty good.
Not bad.
And let me just say one thing before, Russ, I'm going to let you give some tips. But Rydell Booker, I don't know if you see it, Russ. Rydell Booker just gave your product a very nice shout out.
I didn't see it. It scrolled up, and I didn't see what it said because I was watching.
I know. Instead of calling it a 1-2, what I do is say 12.
Oh,
okay.
But no, I'm saying before that, he made a nice rival boxing comment. You'll have to check it out later.
Yeah.
I will.
Thank you.
And not just the gear, by the way, the clothing. What? The gloves. Let me just,
We got to talk later about clothes.
Okay, we'll talk later about clothes. Now, when we're talking about punching power, there's a guy named Artur Beterbiev, right? We've mentioned him before, and I know you work with Artur.
Thank you, Phoenix.
You mean feather-fisted Beterbiev? That's the guy.
Yes, feather-fisted Beterbiev. Is he, like, your whole focus pads for him, is he the hardest puncher that you've held for, or are the people that, and I know, like, there's, like, solid, there's power, there's just, like, tell me about that punch.
Well, I'll tell you 2 things. One, believe it or not, I'm not bragging or anything like that, but I have a technique I use when I do the mitts. I can relax like a fighter would. I relax. So I really don't feel the power. Like, everybody kind of hits the same to me. Like, I don't feel it as much as probably many people do, only because I know how to deflect the power. I know how to soften it. But he's very solid. And when he sits down, and we have him sit down and do 2-3 hard shots, especially when he puts 3 or 4 together, very devastating. But I go by the people who box with him. And as by chance, happened 2 days ago, I was watching a video, an interview with Chad Dawson, who was in camp with us 2 years ago. And Chad has obviously boxed with hundreds of people in his career, high level. And when they asked him who's the hardest puncher you've ever been in the ring with, he said Artur Beterbiev. And he said Artur hits unnaturally. Now, and that's not taking into account the fact that Artur wears 20-ounce sparring gloves when he's in the gym. And Chad still said he's the hardest puncher I've ever been in the ring with. So I go by that. A top-class fighter like Chad saying that about Artur tells me all I need to know.
And the other thing to add to that is his execution of his punches are immaculate. So it's not just generating raw power; it's like doing it properly, which makes it even more devastating. You know, so that adds to that. Because if I had to think back of the guys that I've held pads for, and the 2 guys who, you know, whose power was debilitating, you know, that I can think of is Matthew Hilton. And Matthew at 154 pounds was just like unbelievable.
Okay.
And Adonis Stevenson's left hand, you know, that was of the same level. You know, that was like that one punch, you know, convulsing kind of power. You know, that's but Artur can do it with both hands, and his technique is impeccable.
Yeah.
Now, again, just listening to you guys, and I know you've worked with heavyweights, and you didn't say, oh, this heavyweight punched the hardest, whatever. And you both said about technique. So, again, young fighters, you develop power through technique. I mean, that is so important, have the technique right.
I was just telling a guy, one of the sparring partners for Artur today, we were talking about the mechanics of boxing and everything, and his favorite fighter is Julian Jackson. And, you know, he wants to punch like Julian Jackson. I said, listen, probably not possible. It's probably not humanly possible. A big part of that was guys like Julian Jackson. That's special. He's just born with that. Now so you're not going to take Howard Davis and turn him into Julian Jackson. There's not a trainer on the face of the earth that could do that. But you can increase punching power with technique and timing and balance and all these different things. So when a guy tells you, I want to punch like Julian Jackson, you say, listen, either you do or you don't. That's not up to me. But I can certainly make anyone on earth a better puncher. Maybe not a Julian Jackson, but I can, whatever you have, we can make you better. That's for sure.
Right.
Phoenix wants to punch like Manny Pacquiao. We'll let David know. We'll let David know.
There's a few things there, and Syd, you know this for yourself, like, and Scully knows. There's things that you are inherently born with that you can never ever train to have. You know, it could be an abnormal speed. You know, like you're just so much faster.
Yep.
Why? You've never done anything even to create that speed. The first time you tried something, you were faster than everybody else. It happened.
Yeah.
A chin. You know, there are guys who end up having a chin that are unbelievable. Yeah. You can't train that. You know, you're born with that power. And that's what I noticed with Adonis Stevenson was that even when he didn't look like he was trying to punch hard, or even if he threw the punch wrong, it was hard. Like it hurt. That's inherent power. So couple that with eventually knowing how to use your skill and your technique and doing it properly is going to make you better. But you know, you can go from naturally being 1 out of 10 in power. You learn how to do it right. You might go to 2 out of 10, which would be doubling your power, which would be immense. But you're still far from being 10 out of 10.
Right.
You can,
and let me say this. The first time I really heard of Adonis Stevenson was April. I remember that it was April 27th, 2012. I was in Atlantic City, and I was at a fight week, and I was sitting in a lounge hanging out, and Emmanuel Stewart walked by, and he sat down with me, and we talked, and he said, "I've got this guy, Adonis," and he just went on and on. And what he said was, "I've never seen anything like him, not even with Tommy Hearns." And he said, Adonis will spar with a guy on Monday and hit him on the shoulder. And on Friday, his shoulder will still be hurt. He won't be able to spar until the following week. And he said, everybody he hits, if he doesn't hurt them where they lose consciousness, he goes, he hurts whatever he lands on. They go for days remembering that they were sparring with him. And he said, he said, even Tommy didn't do that to people.
Wow. And speaking of sparring, I mean, I've had the pleasure, I guess, of watching Beterbiev sparred one of my guys, Denton Daly, back in the day. And Arthur has one speed. I don't know if he still has that, but this is one speed. It's called Destroy. And there are some fighters, like, so I always think back into my prime. Like, in my prime, would I fight? Listen, I would not spar with that guy in my prime. There's just no way. Ice, would you spar with Beterbiev if you're in your prime, would you spar with that guy?
Here's the thing. Yes. I would spar anyone. And I was the type of, not just fighter, but as a human being, I was the type of guy I couldn't say no, because I would live the rest of my life mad at myself for not sparring with him. But that being said, my technique would be on display. Look, you spar with a 125-pound amateur featherweight, you're gonna relax and you're gonna get caught because you're relaxed and you're not worried about it. But certain guys, and I'll tell you, the one guy who really made me conscious every second, other than Roy Jones, was Lamar Parks. Lamar Parks hit so hard that I remember thinking, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a miniature bowling ball in his glove and he's hitting me with it. Like, it was And I fought Lamar. Like I beat Lamar twice as an amateur, but I boxed, and he didn't hit me that much. But in sparring, we did 8 rounds, and his power was unreal. Now Arthur is a light heavyweight, 15 pounds heavier than Lamar, so you can only imagine what his was like. It is like. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, I would spar with anyone on earth, but my strategy would alter, tremendously.
And the amount of rounds you would do would all be like, yeah, for you, I think I'll do 2 rounds.
He, no disrespect to any fighter, but they will tell you themselves to last 6 rounds with him in the gym would be like a feather in your cap that you could brag about for the rest of your life. Because I haven't seen anyone do 6 rounds with him, and I haven't seen anyone that wanted to do 6 rounds with him. I never saw. I'll tell you what. I've been with Arthur for 6 years. I've never once seen anyone say, no, keep me in. And I've sparred with good guys, and I go, no, keep me in. I've seen a million guys do that. Keep me in. You've done it, Syd, I'm sure. Yeah. Keep me in. I've never seen anyone say, keep me in. Not once.
I would say yes for the experience as well, and I know full well that it would be this, and I'd be like on the ground, but I'd still say yes. How can you pass up on an experience like that?
Because I don't want to end up
in house. But it's like, okay, that's age-old saying. If Mike Tyson came up and punched you in the face, are you gonna be like, cool, or are you gonna be like, no, and cower away? You gotta take him.
Listen. I mean, Syd's coming from a place of a 160-pounder in his prime. Sparring better Biev, when you're his sparring partner and you're being paid to take out the punishment. I can certainly understand what Syd is saying, but he would go. Like he tells you now, he wouldn't go. But if he was in the gym,
he would go. He'd go. You know why? Because as fighters,
I would go now. Actually, give him a chance. You would, wouldn't you?
Syd, you'll agree with me on this. Now that you're older and you have experience and you have hindsight, you look back on things. Like when you were a fighter, you wouldn't have said, "No, I'm not gonna box with him." You go, "Yeah, I'll take him." But now you know the reality of it. You know what I mean? It's real. Yep. It's reality. And you're like, man, I have to admit that, I don't have a reputation to protect right now. I don't have a ranking to protect,
That's right.
An image to protect. Sparring better by is not a fun proposition. Nobody on earth, if it was for no money, look, I would spar guys. I spar guys every day for free now, right? If somebody said to me, come spar with Better Buy, if it's a great opportunity, but you're not going to get paid. It's like, nah, the money is the deciding factor in whether I come and get in the ring with that man or not. Let's be real.
Absolutely. And sometimes I'll watch fights from ringside. I'll be watching pro fights, like high-level pro fights, and I'll think to myself, that used to be me. Like, what was I thinking? And it's not because of what they're going through. Right? It's not what they're going through in that moment. I know what it took to get there. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Listen, true story. I was still fighting. I was active as a boxer, but I was in between fights. I wasn't in shape. I was at a fight at Foxwoods, and I was in the front row, and Foxwoods seats are elevated, so you're literally level with the ring. You're 10 feet away from the action. And I'm watching the fight, and I can hear the punches landing. And I actually said to myself, how do these guys do this? This is crazy. Forgetting that I was one of them. But for a moment, I separated myself, and I saw it for what it is. I said, this is insanity what these people do. And then it dawned on me, you do what these people do. And that's why. Because I wasn't in shape at the time, and I wasn't prepared for a fight. That's why you as a human being at the beginning of training camp is different than you at the end of training camp. You're training your mind to do things that normal human beings would never do. You have to train yourself to do stuff that's completely extraordinary. And I learned recently what that word means. It's 2 words, extraordinary. We're not normal people to do what we do. And that's why people say, I respect any man that gets in the ring. And people don't understand what that means. Like, to go in knowing that that's the kind of stuff that happens. Yeah. The level of pain and violence and, destruction that can happen to you at any given second is unbelievable to realize that you're actually in the middle of that. So I know now, as a former fighter, I'm sure you understand just like I do that what we did is something super special.
Yeah.
You know, Scully, it's funny you say that, because that's exactly why I feel when everybody just decides they want to turn pro and they trivialize it like it's nothing. I want to go and try. I want to try and have a fight. Well, that's to me is like almost insulting to the people who actually put in the hours and the beatings and 120 amateur fights and travel all around the world and then start 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders, and take that kind of beating in their lifetime to get there. And somebody is able to, trivialize it and say, oh, I'm going to turn pro, and wait a minute, try amateur first, go
right.
Amateur first.
You know what? Yeah. Try and spar with someone really good.
Yeah.
And see if you survive the mentality of it. If you, fighting, and I always talk about the weight in the dressing room and the walk to the ring. Like, people used to say, and we've all heard a million guys say, shoot, I'd fight Mike Tyson for $1 million. And I say, you wouldn't make it out of the dressing room, because when you got in that room and you heard him down the hall hitting the mitts and you understood what was actually happening, you would say, keep your money. I don't want your money. Because it's, and really, it would, it's just like two guys fight in a bar. And they fight anybody. You know why they fight? Because it's spur of the moment and they're forced into it and their adrenaline is high. Now you see two guys about to fight in a bar and you say, wait, go home, think about this fight for 2 days and come back here 9 o'clock on Wednesday night. Neither one of them are coming back. You know what I mean? Because they're going to realize, man, I could get my brain, my head cut open. I could get my teeth knocked out. You fight. People say I fight in the bar all the time. See, yeah, because you had no choice, because there was a guy 4 inches shorter than you and 50 pounds lighter. Fight a guy equal or bigger and give you 3 months to think about it. Then tell me if you're going to show up. Let me see you show up then. And, the dressing room is the moment of truth. And I've seen it happen, and I assume you guys have as well. I've seen it happen where on a pro show, they went to get the main event. The security guard said, that dude in that room, he left a half hour ago. The guy left. The fight was off because he left and he went home.
It's crazy. It happens more than people think. So I've never had that walk into the ring. Yeah. Obviously, right? That's not me. But from working from the commission side, it's an energy. It's not something you feel anywhere else, and it's shocking how many people, like, their headspace watching someone convert from that today is Saturday to I'm about to go step in the ring. It's a special moment to even see, because it's just, you don't see that anywhere in any profession on any level. And I've had 3 fighters from out of country pick up and say, nope.
Okay, not today.
Listen, I'm got to go in a couple minutes. We're getting ready to leave, but I want to tell you the best story that encompasses a lot of stuff, and then I got to go. But you're gonna like this.
All right.
We do a fight at my gym in Connecticut about literally 10 years ago, 2012. It was a guy. His mother had cancer, and he wanted to do a benefit show, amateur show, to raise money for cancer research. He's a big guy, like 230 pounds, Italian guy, like 5'10", 230 pounds. So we got to find someone for him to fight. They found this guy, a real street dude, like a real tough street dude, a guy that would club you with a bat in the bar, no problem, right? He was, no exaggeration, 6'8", 320 pounds. Massive, right? So I'm saying to myself, and his name was Black. I don't know his real name. They call him Black. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, Black's going to murder this guy. This on his own show. This is wrong, right? We get to the fight. One of the dressing rooms was upstairs, right? I had to go in there before his fight to get something, a water bottle or something. I walk in, Black, 6'8", 320 pounds. He's sitting in the room in the middle of the chair. Okay, what's up, man? He looked at me. He didn't even say anything. He just went. He was scared to death.
Right.
Scared. If he fought this guy on the street, he would have not hesitated. He would have squashed this guy, right? I went downstairs. I got one of my fighters who I had always told, don't be ashamed of being scared, right? I said, you're a professional fighter. I go, listen, walk upstairs with me. Just walk in the room for like 30 seconds, pretend you're looking for something, and then walk out and tell me what you see. He goes up. He comes out in amazement, but like laughing. He goes, man, he's scared to death. I go, yeah, man, look at him. He's big. He's as big as Shaquille O'Neal, and he's fighting a guy as big as Mike Tyson, and he's terrified. He can't believe what's happening to him. And long story short, he fights the fight. He gets hit. He hit the ground, the canvas, so hard that I thought he was going to go through the canvas, through the floor, and into the basement. That's how hard he hit. He did not get up. And before the fight, the dressing room is what killed him. It wasn't his opponent. The dressing room stripped him of every ounce of toughness and pride he thought he had in him. He was faced with a choice, and he said no, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to go. Listen.
Thank you for the
It's a
story.
pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us. And while we're doing that, I have Booker here says, oh, wow, tell Syd I haven't seen him in years. Please tell him I said hello. And remember when we used to come down to the gym for sparring. Such a great southpaw.
100% remember, man.
Awesome.
I appreciate the work.
I'll see you guys later.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Joining us.
Baby, go see Jean. Go see Jean.
Yeah, I'm going in like in an hour. Yeah.
Hey, tell Otis I said hello.
He's right there.
Tell Otis I said hello.
Hold on. Wait. I'm going to let you tell him.
All right. Is he still at that big gym, the monster gym, that huge gym? Is he still upstairs out there?
Otis.
I think they moved into a new place.
He's outside.
Okay. Oh, there he is, Magic.
That's it.
Hey, what's going on,
Look at
man?
this guy. Oh, man, look at you. You don't age. What kind of water are you drinking over there?
I know, man. Same water that Russ is drinking. Russ is pretty good, too, don't he?
A Jamaican water, boy. A Jamaican water.
Jamaican water. How's Fitz, man?
He's good, man. He's good. He's doing well, man.
Yeah,
We're all doing good.
Say hello for me, man.
I will.
I haven't seen you guys.
Man, it's good to see you, man. It's good to see you.
you.
I'm going to come visit, okay? I'm going to come visit.
Problem.
Okay? All right.
All right, Joe Lewis.
All right, guys.
All right.
See you later.
Bye, John.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You want to give Russ
Yeah.
a question?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to finish up here with
Okay.
the rapid fire question.
Rapid fire, okay.
One question, and I'll give him one.
Okay, you go first, because
All right.
I have a few.
All right.
Right.
So, my rapid fire.
He needs some gear in Detroit, so you guys got to tell him how to reach out to me or something.
Okay,
you know,
we will.
Send me a message or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll make it
Rydell, if you're in touch with Scully, you know, Scully's got my number and stuff. He can share that with you.
Absolutely.
Booker 7 p.m. and then I'm happy to pass that information over to you.
Nice.
Okay.
All right, so my rapid fire question for Russ. Russ, if you had to design your own boxing gloves, like for you, like you were going to get in the ring, what color, what design would you make for your own custom gloves?
I'd have to go with a vintage brown. Brown would be my color. You know, like I would just want something more like, even to this day, when I work out in the gym and I hit the bag or whatever, I'm using the you know, the little funky bag mitt, you know, just the little bag mitt. Yeah. And my hand wraps are white. You know, they're white hand wraps. So Yeah, I would have white hand wraps and a brown pair of gloves.
Wow, just keep it basic, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that. There is something very classic about them.
There is.
They bring a comfort.
Yeah, I do. I like
It's very
them too.
true. Okay, throughout all of the fighters in the history of time, from the start of boxing until now, if you could pick one person who is clearly not part of, I'm going to say our generation and be, yeah, not a part of our generation, who would you pick as wanting to be their coach, to teach them, just to be part of their experience?
Well, I mean, to teach them, I mean, that wouldn't be really, because you're going to name a great, great athlete, a great. So
all right, just to be part of their experience then, or part of their team.
Well, put it this way. For me, that kind of experience happened with Roy Jones. Roy Jones came to training camp with Jean Pascal, and that was the first time I had seen Roy since he and Otis fought. But when they fought, we weren't like friends or anything. You know what I mean? And when he came to training camp, Jean told him, "Let Russ wrap your hands." And the look on his face when I wrapped his hand, and he was like almost disgusted that I wasn't there for the whole part of his career, was worth millions to me. It was a great feeling. And for the few fights he had after that, I was always there, and I always wrapped his hands and always worked his corner. So if you ask me somebody outside of that generation, if I could be a hand wrapper or a cup man to, a great fighter, it would have to be either Sugar Ray Robinson or Joe Louis. That would be the corner I'd want to be in. I'd love to have my corner jacket, that said Louis on the back. That would be special.
That would be very, very cool.
Special.
Good.
I like it.
Russ, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I hope you had a great Christmas, enjoying your holidays. Listen, wishing you all the best, prosperity, health. Keep working with those fighters. Keep educating people, man. Just appreciate you in the sport of boxing, man. So thank you so much for taking the time.
I appreciate you guys having me. Sonya, Syd, it was fun. I'm glad Scully was there. We got to, we did this last time, like I said, during the pandemic, and we were able to talk about, where boxing came from to be where it is today. And that's something that I think fighters today, coaches today, newcomers to boxing today, forget that the reason there's boxing today was because it came from somewhere. It evolved, and there's people who played a role in doing that. And I don't think boxing pays enough tribute to the people who got it to where it is today. And all the fighters that had, and I say that about other sports as well. And, the fighters who had the success that made it possible for you to be what you are today, or what you're doing today in boxing, is because of the people who laid the groundwork, along the way. And I always use the example of, I don't know if you guys would remember if this name means anything to you, but Curt Flood. Does that name mean anything to you?
I've heard it. I've heard of Curt Flood.
Flood was the guy who, in baseball, who challenged, the right for a team to own you for your entire career. He wanted free agency. And he lost his career in baseball because he fought baseball on saying that I deserve to be able, as a man, my contract ends, I deserve to be able to move and play for other teams and whatnot. And before that, you couldn't do that. So all these guys in all professional sports today who sign on and sign these big contracts and are privileged for free agency and get these multi-million-dollar contracts, they owe that to Curt Flood. Curt Flood did that. He's the one who took the stand to begin with and made it possible for all. So everything that's in boxing today, somebody paid a price along the way for people to be here for that, yourself included, Syd. And the great respect I have for you and your brothers and what you did on the amateur scene and the pro scene. So,
thank you, Russ. Boxing
Ontario has a little bit of a debt of gratitude towards you as well, and other fighters from Ontario as well.
Awesome. Thank you, my man.
It was good. It was a pleasure to have you on, sir. We did have 3 message requests for you to bring back your show. So if you would like us to help you do that, you know where to find us. We're so down.
Well, listen, I was one of the best times of my life doing that show, doing In This Corner and giving boxing visibility in Canada, which we haven't had since, and it was a unique show and the only one of its kind. I miss working with with Dutchie, and that was fun. But I'm still doing television work here in French in Quebec, and where boxing is, as you know, extremely popular. So I hope to do more of it, Sonya. And thank you for having me, and a happy and healthy New Year to you guys as well.
Yes.
Okay?
Happy New Year, Russ.
Happy New Year.
All
We
right.
look forward to seeing you soon.
Peace.
Peace.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Wow. What a way to end the year.
Guys, this is like, it was an awesome day. Awesome day.
Great
Fantastic
day.
show.
Yeah.
Such a pleasure to have them.
Yeah.
There are very few moments
Mhm.
where I feel young, like a baby.
Mhm.
When you guys are talking about the early 80s and late 70s
Mhm.
and things that started in the year I was born,
Yeah.
I feel so young.
That's it. Oh,
my
gosh.
hangry attitude is a little
Yeah,
gone
no,
now, so I'm feeling
you're smiling a little
I'm
bit more.
smiling. So I missed breakfast. I left my wallet at home, so there will also be no lunch. I was a little hangry, and so thank you very much to Russ and John for taking away
such
my
a great
hangry.
show.
It
Yeah.
was a good time.
And if you missed it, go watch it on YouTube because there were some good things that they were both saying. Yeah, no,
so much useful
this is-
information, great boxing history,
yeah, business and
everything.
Yeah.
Guys, so if you have friends that you're like, hey, they want to watch this show or you enjoyed it, you can go to YouTube, Syd and Sonya at SydFit Show on YouTube. We have a channel. Like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends, join us. You're a boxer, you want to join us on here, have some fun, spread the word, talk about boxing.
Let's do it.
Just message us.
All right.
We're down. We just want to have some fun.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Last show of the year.
That's it. Last show of the year.
See you next year.
See you.
Woo!